Very much for coming and joining us.
Well, thank you for having me this morning. I don't normally look like this. I'm normally the person in my jeans, but one of the kids from our kids club, her parents get married at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So my aim is to be there before the bride. As long as that happens, we should be fine. So as said, my name is Lyall. I am the kids pastor at AOG Central in Fraserburgh, which means I cause all the trouble. So I just want to share a bit of my story with you today. Is that all right? Open for questions at any time. But first I want to share a little bit from the Gospel. Who knows one of the stories that appear in all 4 Gospels? Anybody? One of the miracles?
The feeding of the 5,000.
Feeding of the 5,000. And this has been something that's challenged me over this past couple of years. And if I can just go from John chapter 6. So this is a version, just one of the 4 versions that we see. And it says this: sometimes after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, and a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs that he performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up to the mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming towards him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" And he asked this only to test him, for he had already in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered him, "It would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go among so many?" Then Jesus had the people coming and sitting down. You know, there's 2 stories of disciples there. There was one, Philip, who turned around and seen the problems. All these people, but how are we going to pay for it? And then there was the disciple, Andrew, that went into the crowd and found the little boy that had the lunch. Do you think he was the only person sitting there with lunch? I ain't convinced he was the only person there with food, because there was 5,000 men, plus the ladies and the kids. But Andrew was the disciple who found the child who could touch the lives of thousands. And I don't know about you, but I want to be the kids worker. I want to be the person that finds the kids who can touch the lives of thousands. Andrew started off with 1. It was very small, but that influenced thousands and thousands of people, and we're still speaking about it today. I don't know where your starting point is this morning, but let me tell you, if God's in it, then you are able to do many things. My story starts back a few years. When I was 13, I graduated from kids ministry. I was no longer a kid. I went to serve because I loved Jesus. I had a good grounding and started off helping in the kids club. And when I was 15, I went to my youth leader and asked if I could start a kids ministry. 15 years old, not a clue what I was doing, but I loved Jesus. I knew that he loved me, and I really believed this was something that he had in store for me. So when I was 15, they gave me a key to the church, because they did that back then, and somebody who was slightly older, and we started this group called Kids Praise on a Friday night at 6:30. 9 children showed up. And do you know something? I was delighted with the 9. I wasn't thinking about the thousands, I was delighted with the 9. And every Friday night we did some singing and some dancing and some praying. And you know, to be honest, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I just lived from week to week. Don't know where you're at in your kids' ministry just now. Living from week to week sometimes happens. And so after a couple of years, I began to think, what am I going to do with these children? It began to be something that I just did. Not something that I had any vision and passion about. So then what happened was, when I was maybe 22, I trained as a teacher, so I had some common sense put into me, slightly, and I started to really pray about this group. So I was 15, I was 7 years old at that time, and we began to pray as a group of kids. So they would come in, and the only thing we did on a Friday night was pray with this group of kids. Some mostly church kids, some community kids. Who says that you can't pray at your kids club? Who says that you can't turn it into something that God puts in your heart? So we used to come in and we used to talk about what we were going to pray for. Then we used to pray loud or pray quiet. And the Holy Spirit really began to move in this group of kids. It grew to about 40 kids, and then after that we had one of those experiences that I didn't quite see coming. Some of the kids formed a kids band, so I was like, yes, great, let's have worship in our kids thing. So we had prayer, we had worship, and I did my first story. It lasted about 2 minutes. because I wasn't used to getting up and speaking to people. And when I got up, I kind of tried to do this illustration and things, and then went and sat down. But you see, the kids were drawing people, and God was drawing people all the time, and we just began to see this thing begin to grow. And we changed it as we went along. So they had the kids band, we were praying, and then this kids band started to lead these kids in worship. Not because of what I was doing, but because of what God was doing. And then the 80 kids became 60 kids. Sorry, the 40 kids became 60 kids. And then it became 80 kids. And then I'm looking thinking, oh my goodness, what is going on here? And this went on for a few years. And where we're at now is 23 years later. Our kids club still happens every Friday night. We bus children in. We see 200 kids coming in from now, 23 years ago, to where we are now. Because of me? No, but because of what God has done. So I really today want to inspire you where you're at. I want to encourage you. I want to give you some keys that has helped us along the way. And go out there and take the one kid that could feed the 5,000 and see God do amazing things. So some things I want to share with you that I believe has really, really helped. First thing, what is your dream for your local kids ministry? You all should have a sheet of paper. Does everybody have one of these? If you don't, I want you just to write down what's your dream for your kids ministry. Oh, anybody else not got one? You see, for me, things began to change when I began to dream. I was happy with the 9, and then I was happy with the 20, then I was happy with the 40, then I began to dream about what could be, what had never been before. Our kids ministry in our church had never been more than 40 kids. That was a big night. But you see, the Bible tells us that we're there to reach all the children. So I really believe it's my responsibility to reach all the kids. The Bible says, if without vision the people perish. If you haven't got a dream for your kids club, then it's going to stay at that small ministry. We need to have dreams, we need to have vision, we need to have purpose for where we're going and what we're doing. Are you dreaming big? I started to dream and it was just like small. And then I dreamed a bit bigger because God is very big. And then I'm now dreaming massive. It scares people at times. But I believe that if we dream big, then we will see big things. Anybody want to share their dream for their kids' ministry? Yes?
Lots of families we don't know. Yeah. We can attract the families that we do know that would regularly worship. But I would love people to feel confident about coming into church or coming to groups.
Yes. That's a great dream because that's not just building a kids' ministry, that's building church. Because when you get the families coming in, then church begins to build. You need to pray into that dream. Anybody else got a dream?
I came from South Korea,
Okay.
and where we had a lot of silence children in Sunday school.
Yeah.
And I came here, this church, like very old age church, and still I haven't seen my children more than 10
Okay.
in the Sunday club.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dream is having lots of children in the Sunday club.
Yes.
And then when they grow up, teenagers and young youth, then the church will be growing.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have that foundation at the moment in the church. So
Yeah.
that's our dream, to have more foundation from the
Yes.
younger children.
Kids. Great dream. One more person?
I have very little voice. I don't like to share it. To see the children who we have, to really know God's love, to be fully equipped by His Spirit and to know His purpose in their lives, but then to see them reach their families and other children,
Yeah.
so that the whole community will be impacted.
Yes. And that's the reality of kids ministry. Because where you are at, you're not just talking to kids. You're impacting mums and dads, you're impacting grannies and granddads, you're impacting the community. And when you open your eyes and see the responsibility and the opportunity that you've actually got, the world is out there. And we can really change a generation. Our tagline in our kids ministry is kids living for Jesus, changing His world. And I truly believe when I get older, I'm just going to go around and visit them all over the world. It's going to be my job. I'm going to be flying by and encouraging them as they go. And we've already started to send people out. The girl who was on the stage today singing, she used to come to our kids club 20 years ago. So it was quite funny when I was standing there, I thought, oh, Stephanie, yes, she's in Aberdeen now, I'll hardly see her. But it's great to see her still involved in church, still helping to build there, even though she's not with us anymore. A few quotes there just to inspire you. We can't always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. It was great what Rachel was talking about today, because the kids need that to help to build the future. And one last quote there, leaders go to leave a legacy for the next generation by building on the blessing of the past generations. I want this generation that I've got here to have a greater foundation than what they had coming in, so the next generation can build and build and build. So some important keys for me. Belonging. Do you know, when the kids come in, whether I had the small group or the large group, for me, they've got to feel like they belong. So whatever number of kids you're sitting there, do they feel that they are part of the group? Have they got a relationship with you? When they come in, I said hello to every single one of the 9 kids. And I now still say hello to every one of the 200 kids. Or if there's 300 kids, I'll still stand at the door. When you come into the main church, are you greeted at the door? Is there welcome teams? Somebody shaking your hand? Is it any different in kids ministry? We all want to know that we've been noticed. We all want to know that somebody said hello. Kids are no different. So a lot of times I've taken the keys that they use in the big church and used them in kids ministry. Games. They got to feel part of it with the games and joining in. And everybody doing it. Everybody did the pep cleaner thing today. Everybody went along with the demonstration and talked to the person. That game got everybody going. And also interactive teaching. You've got to be speaking back and forth to them, whether you have a small group or whether you have a large group. It can't be you're standing and they're all sitting listening. Because in that belonging, they're going to bring more people. You've got to start with the kids that you have already, and also to know the kids' names. Do you know the kids' names? Or are you like, oh my goodness, what are you called again? Now, there's some kids that I know their names, some kids I am still forgetting, but I always say a child's name every time I see them, so that they know that I know who they are. And because the relationship with me and the relationship with the other kids leaders helps them feel like they belong. Do your kids feel like they belong in your small group? Do they feel like they belong in your church? Or are they a visitor? Do they feel at home? Because that's what church really needs to be to them, where they feel so comfortable and relaxed that it does feel like home. And that they're free to wreck the place as well. Well, not that we're encouraging that, but that's what you do at home, isn't it? You run about, you say what you really think, you are able to be open. So belonging, that's the first thing for me. And it's also an important key for church, for anybody coming along to church. Second thing, being relevant. Okay, being relevant. How are your songs for your small group? How relevant are they? Have you changed your songs lately? Let me ask you this. How often do they change the songs in the main church? How often do they introduce a new song? In main church, are you still singing the same songs that you'd have sung 5 years ago? Some of them?
Yeah.
Some of them have changed. How's your kids' ministry? My challenge was this when I look back. When I went to Sunday school, as it was then, we sung the same songs when I was 5 till I was 12. And then I went back and served as a leader at 15, and they're still singing the same songs. Music lasts that long these days? Still singing Jesus, You're My Superhero from 15 years ago? Going out there, still listening to the same thing that's on iTunes. Does your music change every month, every year? Do you listen to the same thing in your car this year as you listened to 2 years ago? Do we? We change all the time.
I'm 15 years on the same album.
Our world changes all the time. And I think we've got to be really, really aware that we don't get stuck with the same songs just because the same kids. A song in our place doesn't last longer than 3 years. So we introduce it, we sing it, and then we kind of gradually fade it out. I might take it back in 3 years' time, but I might not. With a song that we just introduced yesterday at our kids' club, that the primary 7s used to sing in primary 1. But the kids in between didn't know it. So it's not that there's not a lot of good songs out there that are old, But it's always good to keep it fresh and to keep it new and to keep something different coming on. The other thing about songs, we now don't do a song that you can't download from iTunes. And the reason for that is this, that most kids are able to go online and pay for a song and download it to some type of device. Whether it's a Kindle or whether it's a tablet. Do you know what I mean by that? So I want everything to be accessible to them. And that way we get Christian music playing in their homes. But they're able to download the songs and listen to them at home. So just thinking about your songs.
Do you learn yourself first from the internet, or how do you get the new songs every time?
I would download it. I
You
listen
learn
it.
from the internet.
Yes, from the internet. If I can't download it, I don't sing it.
Okay.
Mainly because I want it to be accessible to them. Because it's about, oh, I can buy that music and you can do that. We've got a Facebook page and parents can download it. We put the link up there so the parents can get to it. Because it is about that feeling part of it. I don't want it to be, that if you're in church, you can have the CD. If you're not in church, then you can't. Because you want the kids to come through the door and from the community into your church. So for me, it's really helped to bring a freshness. That's more what I'm saying. Even in the small group, you still need that freshness. You still need to be continually changing. When we were growing, and we're still growing, we were continually changing. What we're doing now, we weren't doing 2 years ago.
So we want some ideas of fresh new songs. We can look at your page,
Yes.
which is
AOG Central. On the back, I have put an AOG Central photograph.
brilliant.
So some of the songs are on there. What I can do is, if we take email addresses on the way out, I'll send you a whole list. So I'm passionate about that because part of kids connecting with Jesus is through worship. I love worship. I love worship in church. I love when you really know a song and you can really get into it. We honestly sing songs to death in Kids Club. We wouldn't be doing more than 3 songs at a time. So they really get to know them and they're really worshipping, they're really getting into it and they're really connecting with Jesus. When, this is slightly off track, but yesterday when one of the kids came in, she helps now, so she's 15, came in through the community and she came up and she says, Lisa, do you know all the way down to, they were on some trip somewhere, she says, we just went into the Glow songs and sang all the Glow songs. Now we've been at Kids Club for the past 5 years and this busload of teenagers in high school were sitting singing the songs that we had sung 5 years ago. And I was really refreshed because it had gotten into them. They were excited about it. There was always something new. The actions weren't boring. It was full of life because you need that. I want to be involved with something that's full of life. So if I'm bored, they're bored. When I'm bored of the song's out the window. And then new songs are coming in. But it's more to keep a freshness. Because you need to be thinking big. Think about your vision. Think about where you're going. It's not about, but they're fine with what we've got. Fine's not good enough. I want them to be excited. I was singing that song. I was singing this to school. Oh, can we do that one? And what happens if you continually introduce new songs, they actually forget that you're not doing the old ones. Because all they see is the new ones over and over again. And for me, that's been really important to create this atmosphere that they really, really enjoy. So songs is one thing. Appoint leaders, responsibilities that help them to flourish. Oh my goodness, people at the front that can't tell a story. So, and we're all different, yes? And sometimes it's a hard call. If I've got somebody at the front and I'm thinking, you are boring me, you're not telling the story in order, you're not teaching very well, you're not at your best here, you're better in a one-to-one, then they will gently be asked to just sit down. That's hard, isn't it? Yeah. Tell me this, who gets on your platform in main church? People who can't speak? How does that make you feel? So you're there, we used to be like that in our church, you're there, and people are not great communicators at the front. How does that make you feel as an adult? Do you think it's any different for kids? Do they deserve the best? In our team, we have people that are up front and we have people that sit with the kids and work with them in groups. It's not that people can't teach, it's where are they best teaching. Because even in the Bible, Moses gave some 5, he gave some 10, he gave some 20, he gave some 100. Some people are not made to stand at the front. Some people are excellent on the one-to-ones and talking through the problems and praying with them and building a relationship. Some people are great with the groups of 10 who can sit and do a great group discussion. Put people where they should be. That's not about making poor decisions, that's about good leadership. We do it in church to the best of our ability to make church the best for the adults. We've got to put that into kids ministry. You want to take something small and grow it big, you've got to get that right. So there's actually people, you wouldn't get on my stage at Kids Club for at least a year of serving in kids ministry. Now that's okay where I'm at now because it's a big team, but we had a lot of hard calls to make when people were up at the front. You need to do this, and then you need to do that, and then you need to go there. I was like, oh my goodness, that's not helpful. So if I'm disengaged, then they're not doing that anymore. I'm going to put them somewhere where they're going to flourish. Hard call, but worth it. Media. Oh, you need media. Okay, do we all have things that move on the screen? Do you have a screen at Kids Church, Sunday School? Do you have a computer? Do you have some sort of... It's not absolutely essential, but I think it does help. We try to use different things. Try and use the Bible app. So even if you have a tablet, you don't need a big screen if you're with a small group. Let me just bring this up. So one of the things that's great is the Bible app for kids. Have you seen that before? Bible app for kids, completely free. We all like a free app. And on here, they've now got something like, I think 28 stories. It was 24 a while ago, but they're upgrading it all the time. So the great thing about this, you've got all these stories that you can download. So let me just go with creation to start with. Now you could use that in a group, couldn't you?
Is it internet-based?
No, this is not. This is not connected to the internet. This is something I use for school assemblies all the time at the minute. So you can read it. Now what I like about this is the pictures are moving. Now you can have it speaking. Oh, it does speak.
Let's go back to the beginning and see what the Bible tells us about how it all began.
So he's a bit boring for me, so I don't normally listen to him. So when you tap the pictures move. Okay? So let me give an example. This is back to creation. So when God created the world, he created light and he created dark. And it was light and it was dark. Oh, you can see it moving and it's a bit more exciting, okay? So this is a great tool, a free resource where kids will interact with you. You can actually connect these up to the screens. Or you can just use it on your phone. We've done this with a group of 15, 20, just had the iPad or had a Kindle or whatever, and we can borrow from people or just ask church to buy one for you. There. So it's a really good tool and resource to use. What else have I got there? Teaching using different materials. So we would use different methods. We'd sometimes use the Bible app. We'd sometimes take a story offline. On the back of the little sheet that I gave you, there are some websites there that have lots and lots of good information on there. The other thing it's always good to do is memory verses. Who still uses memory verses? It's good, for me, you want to get the Word of God planted into them. So whether I've got to rap them, give them actions, sing them, we would try and connect with them with a memory verse. And the other thing is games. Again, relevant games, fun games. This was a kind of new concept to me when I first started to kind of change, because my idea of kids ministry had been very serious. Do you know what I mean by that? We'd have done the song, and then we'd have done the memory verse, and then we'd have done the Bible game with the draw swords, sheaf swords, find your memory verse in the Bible. Who remembers that? Yeah. And that's all good, but it's also good to have a bit of fun as well in with it. So now, even at Kids Church, we would do something fun. My latest game is this. We've got 2 boxes, split them in 2 teams. First team through the box. It's an absolute hit. So anything from as simple as that to something very elaborate works with kids because you're making it fun, making it relevant. Next one, consistency. How long have you been doing kids ministry? Long time. Takes a long time to make it happen. Be consistent, that it's the same person leading it for as long a period as possible until God tells you not to, and try and get your team to buy in so that they are constant all the time. What I would say about this is I'm not out of church every Sunday. I am at Kids Club every Friday night, apart from when I'm sick or I have a wedding or something. But for the last 23 years, I've been at Kids Club every Friday night that I can be. I'd never be sitting at home. But on a Sunday, I make sure that I get into church, and I am also in kids ministry as well, so I don't miss too often. I'm only in kids church once a month now. It used to be every second week, but I think it's really important for kids ministers, those that are ministering to kids, get yourself out of that. And if you need to shut your kids church, this is just by the way, if you need to shut your kids church for a week or two so you get into main church, you need to do that. It's not good to be out of it. So consistency. The other thing you need is passion. Oh my goodness, who likes listening to a boring person?
Yeah!
Yeah, you sound like that. So you need a bit of passion. For me, it's been a journey. I used to be very quiet and shy. Look how that turned out. So when I was growing up, honestly, if you said my name, my face would have went red. I did teacher training. I never once spoke out in that period of time without my voice shaking, without absolutely dying underneath the table. And then when I was about 22, 23, I was teaching and I had to find my voice in it all. And the question was this: was I going to give in to what I seemed to naturally be like, or did I want to bring myself up to honour Jesus as much as I could? And I honestly believe that the confidence that I have and the voice and the passion that I have has come through my relationship with the Lord. Because if you'd met me 30 years ago, my face would have went red and I wouldn't have been standing here at the front. But I believed that God gave me the kids ministry to develop and to work on. I wanted to get it right, I wanted to do it well, and my confidence is growing and growing and growing. And now at times it's not quietness that's a problem, it's the loudness. So it kind of goes the opposite. But you need to have passion about what you're doing as well. Is it something that's just to the side? When the kids ministry was just that kids club that I did every Friday night but didn't put a lot of effort into it, it didn't grow, it didn't flourish. When I took it to the front that, Lord, I really am praying in this, I'm really believing for this, I'm really looking for something that has never been before, things started to grow. You need to be passionate about what God's given you to do. You can't sit there with 10 kids expecting it to grow, putting nothing into it. Not changing that little bit, trying different things. So, to enlarge, let me go back to the booklet here. So, in the middle of the book, let me just run through what we've got here. So, important things for your kids' ministry. We'll just go with the bullet points. As we said, welcome when they come in. The games. I would always do a whole game, a whole group game where everybody's involved. If you've got a group of 20, then I would do a group game with maybe 3 kids against 3 kids. And then I would do an individual game if I had time. Because if you do a group thing and everybody feels part of it, they've all played a game. That one there, having a relevant programme that works for your area. This is a bit like the songs. Where do you get your teaching material from? What are you doing for your kids club? If I asked you to describe your kids club, would it be the same as your kids club? Should it be the same? If I asked you to describe your church, would it be the same as your church? No, because we build churches for our individual areas. Is that right? So whatever church you're in, whatever area you're in, build your kids ministry so it supports your area. One of the things that we do is we have a prayer breakfast on a Tuesday morning. Kids come to school at 7:45 in the morning. And they then have breakfast. We pray for the missionaries around the world. We pray for different needs. And then we walk them to school. Now, I don't know of another church that does that in the world. But that's not really important. What's important is that it was something God put on my heart, and I have carried that through into our kids' ministry. What's God put on your heart for your kids' ministry that's different to everybody else? Because what that is could be a key to help it grow. So don't just be doing things because other people are doing it. Do it because it works for your kids. It's good to glean from today. Take what people are handing out and try that, but don't model yourself on somebody else. Be yourself. Be relevant for the kids in your area. The rest of the blue bits there have gone up to the top there of the second page. Kids in ministry needs to be more than once a week. Okay? Sunday is not enough. What are you going to do to make your small group think about the kids' ministry throughout the week? What can you do? There's some interesting tools at the minute coming out. The latest thing our kids is into is Instagram. Anybody else? Oh, yeah. Who knows how to use Instagram? I know. So I'm with you if you don't know. I now have an Instagram account. Not because I have a clue, but because I need to learn how to use it. And if I Instagram a photo during the week, I'm connecting with the kids during the week. If I put something, I wouldn't put it up on Facebook because the kids aren't old enough. But Instagram is an awful lot safer. So I want to encourage you to try and get to them during the week. We also do things, we encourage them to pray at home. We encourage them with their Bible verses. We had a blog for a while. And the kids could go on and look at the blog. That worked really well. The other thing we sometimes do is we do competitions at home. So they have to make things during the week. So if you have a group on a Sunday, can you give them a task throughout the week that they've got to come back with the following week? Because that's making them think about the kids' ministry at home. We've also given out birthday cards. We have fun days, we have holiday clubs and camps and things like that now. But it's trying to get more than just one day a week. What can you do to make the kids think about what you're doing through the week so that they come back the following week? Sometimes for us, I forgot something in my car. Sometimes for us, we do silly things. So my latest thing, I actually took it with me in my car today. I've left it in the boot. Do you want to go and get it? So
Just tell me the colour of your card.
straight
Don't tell me the
outside,
kind.
just flash the lights. It's in the boot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of big. It's got a red hat. It's a gnome. Ignore the mess. So we've got this. I'll take it in now. It's so amazing. We have this gnome that I've seen in Asda. Have you ever seen something and thought, I just want to use it for kids ministry, right? So I walked past this gnome in Asda for about 3 weeks. I thought, I need inspiration. I need inspiration. So I got this gnome, which cost £25. Which is not too bad. And I introduced it to the kids yesterday. We're going to play hide and seek in Fraserburgh with this gnome.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm so excited. So what I'm going to do is, on a Friday, I'm going to take the gnome. I know, you're glad you're not in my church. I'm going to take the gnome and I'm going to put it in one of the local shops. And they have to take a selfie with it. And then either got to print out the selfie, Instagram the selfie to me, or email the selfie to me. The best gnome selfie wins a prize at the end of every week. So they're going to be thinking about this gnome. Wait till you see him, he's so amazing. They're going to be thinking about this gnome throughout the week. So this is my latest thing. We've done lots of silly things like that, like this before. See, you just look at him and smile. It's like, so cute.
Here's me clicking through which card. There's about 5 right there.
I apologise. So this is my gnome, okay? So he's going to go into shops. I have agreed with local shopkeepers to put him in there. I know it's daft. But I am competing with the iPad generation here. And I want to do something that nobody's done before. Our kids are very excited about it, playing hide and seek with the gnome. So if you have nothing to do on a Saturday afternoon, come to Fraserburgh, there'll be a gnome in a shop. We've done things like this a few years ago. After Kids Club, we used to plant a gnome in somebody's garden. I'd creep into the garden at midnight and plant a gnome. It was called Home a Gnome. And the kids would waking up in the morning, and if there was a gnome there, they'd be gnomed. And then they took the gnome and they passed it on to somebody else, and they gnomed somebody else. And then it went on the whole week, and then they brought it back to Kids Club on the Friday. Now I know that sounds daft, but do you know something? For 7 weeks, we had 2 gnomes going around Fraserburgh. And people were gnoming each other all over the place. So it's about taking those weird and wonderful ideas and turning it into something. Our kids love it. You can't get that anywhere else. So this small group has grown.
There's going to be gnomes all around.
I know! We need to get one. I could get commission from us. Don't buy the one with the bikini though. I didn't think that was appropriate. Fully clothed on me. So there are many things that I'm planning on doing with this gnome. Do you know that all sparked off of? Well, there was a shop in Fraserburgh, the Moore store. Who remembers the Moore store? And they had little gnomes, and like I'd pass exactly the same as this one. I want a gnome. So then we did name a gnome. So I bought all these gnomes and gave them Bible characters. Here's my link. And if you guessed the name of the gnome, you got to keep the gnome. And so this is where this all evolved. So in the summertime, it's a great chance to use gnomes. And Romeo and Juliet has some really good teaching points as well. We've done series on that. So that's an insight into the silliness and the daftness that you can have through kids ministry. But it made you all smile. And can you imagine what the kids are like? So I wanted to create something in kids ministry that nobody else is doing in Fraserburgh. You can't get it anywhere else. Because the truth is this, Jesus did come and give us life and life to the full, and the church should be offering something that nobody else is. And I want our kids ministry that I'm involved in and you're involved in to be something that you can't find anywhere else. But kids are excited, kids are passionate, kids are loving Jesus. Kids are going from being in kids ministry into the world to be disciples and to make a difference. And you know, we have the opportunity to make that happen. A few little things down there, every little helps. I'll take some questions in a minute. You might have many. One of the things we do when the kids come in, so when they come up from nursery, we give them a pack just to welcome them. It normally has a pencil and a rubber and a sweet and some information about everything that's going on. And at the end of the year, when the primary sevens are growing up, oh, who loves primary sevens at this point in term? Oh! So, bless them, I'm like, praying them on to youth ministry. Okay, see you later. I keep saying to our youth pastor, you're going to love them, they're great. So anyway, I've done my stint. So when we do that, we normally take the primary sevens and try and do a link between kids and youth. Because if you put in 7 years of ministry into somebody, you don't want to lose them, do you? At the youth stage. So we've done the Alpha course with them, we have done some things from Rock Solid with them. We kind of try and change it all the time, but it is important to make that, like, do something different and see what works. We're changing that all the time as well, but you do want to try and keep them. Can I encourage you? You've got to be in this for the long haul. In Acts 13, verse 36, it says this: for David, after he had served God's will and purpose and counsel for his own generation, David served his purpose in his own generation. We need to serve our purpose for this generation and then watch God do amazing things. You know, we started with 9 kids a lot of years ago. Last year, I had one of the dreams that I would have written down there come true. Last year, we had, in 2 days, every child in the community that I serve in come into church. 2,000 of them. And every child heard Jesus loved them. And I was privileged enough to stand before every child, introduce myself, tell them a little bit about the church, tell them that God loved them. That was a dream for me. That was a dream that if you'd told me 15 years ago, I'd have said, let's actually put it in video. What do you want to do? I want to speak to every child in our community. And they were like, you're off your head. I know, but I wanted to speak to every child in our community. Do you know, I never go into Tesco's now without saying hello to them all. And I'm just an ordinary person that grew up in a local church that has a passion for Jesus, that started with 9 kids, that God has opened up the door beyond what I could believe. I want to encourage you, wherever you're at today, whatever dream you've written down there, whatever God is putting in your heart, if you're faithful to Him, if you trust Him, if you serve Him, if you're in it for the long haul, God can make those things happen. I'm believing that we're changing a generation. I'm believing that these kids are going to go further than I have ever been or could ever dream about. Speaking to our communities may be one thing. For them, it might be speaking right across Scotland. I don't know. But let me encourage you, do not despise the small things. Because God uses those small things and He trains us. See, at 15, if you'd given me the 200 kids, I'd have been a disaster. Absolute disaster. But as the ministry grew, I grew. My capacity grew. I was able to do that bit more. Wherever you're at just now, ask God to increase your capacity. Ask God to increase your vision. Ask God to increase what you believe is possible. And just be faithful and passionate. Keep at it. And it can grow from the small to something that is very large and impact a generation. Has there anybody got any questions at all they'd like to ask? Or do you want their photo with the no? Yes! Is there for selfies at the minute? So please steal the idea if you want to do it. I'm just so excited. Yes.
So you are running the Kids Club.
Yes.
Do the children coming to the Sunday school as well? And how do you link with the Sunday?
So we have at the minute, our kids club is quite big on a Friday, and on the Sunday we have kids church during our morning service. So the kids are in for worship, and then at 20 to 11, church starts at 10:15. 20 to 11, the kids go out, but we also have community kids coming in, which is quite bizarre. And it makes it fun if the senior pastor decides to flip things around and do worship and everything else differently. So we have about 10 kids come in just now from the community to kids' church, whose parents would come along to church now and again. But at the same time, a lot of the church growth in our church this last couple of years has been down to the kids coming in to this kids' church, and then the parents start staying for the morning service. And then the parents get to know Jesus, and then they've decided to make a decision for themselves, and that whole family is going now. So although I'm saying 10, we probably have another 15 sitting in kids' church just now, with their parents now next door. in the
we
big
got
church?
brownies in the church.
Okay.
They got a lot of children in brownies.
Yes.
And they come to the church, do something, celebrate their things now and again,
Mhm.
but they're not coming to the Sunday school.
Okay.
So we are thinking about how can we link
Yes.
with the club.
Do you have a
Sunday
flyer with everything on it? So there's nothing happens in our kids ministry without everything being on the same flyer. It's all from the same place. Now I don't necessarily run it all, but whatever's going on, our junior choirs run with somebody else on the flyer. We have a boys and a girls club, a bit like the brownies, that's on the flyer. Kids church is on the flyer, so when parents are looking through the flyer, they can see that kids church is on, even though they go to the girls club.
Why is the difference? Children come to your kids club.
Yes.
They're not coming to the church Sunday.
No. I think times have changed, because Sunday now is a family day. And realistically, your kids' church is probably a reflection on your church. So our church has 40, 50 kids in it. And we'll have 300 adults next door. So that's how many kids come with the adults. If you come to a kids club on a Friday night, it's massive.
Yeah.
Because that is those kids, that's their church time. But it's not a case of just getting, the 10 coming through the door on a Sunday is only because, I guess
They come into your club as well.
they come to the club as well. They come to the club before they come to kids' church. There's kind of like a progression. If you want to see more community kids come in, I think you've got to do something midweek to get them in. Because the days of Sunday school, kids' church, being the big thing people come to, they're off in Aberdeen for the day. They're out for the day. Sunday is really what Saturday used to be for a lot of them. A lot of birthday parties and things going on as well now. So to grow that, but we've seen...
Yeah, how would you teach Lord's Day on Sunday
How
rather
do
than Friday? Because you've got a big club of number of children on Fridays.
Yes.
And then Sunday, 10 children are coming to the Sunday school. So we believe like Sunday is the Lord's Day
Yes.
towards God
Yes.
rather than Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you...
Well, you really need to get, if you get mum and dad, you get them all. Or if you get mum, you get them all. So we would start, and we visit. So I would visit, if somebody's ill, I would turn up with a lasagna to parents. We have fed families who have not been able to afford different things. Opportunity, when we go to camp, visit every parent and just go in. Sometimes I go in for coffee, sometimes I stand at the door. But you need to build relationships. It's a lot like it's just like evangelising really. You need to build relationships, and then gradually the parents will come. So now we have a family service after every holiday kids club that we do. So we do a holiday kids club in summer and October, and we also do them throughout the year when the in-service days are on. We do them from 10 to 3, and then we'd have a family service. Now in the summertime, we had more unchurched people in our church than church, because the families was coming in, but that's taken 10 years to get there. I wasn't always like that. I used to be rejoicing when there was 2 families come in. You know the deal, don't you? You're looking, sitting thinking, please let somebody come through the door. But now, because the tables have turned and we've kept on persisting, all those families are coming in. Then the amazing thing was that if they come back the following week. So we've had one family since Christmas. We did a Frozen Christmas. I rewrote the Frozen songs and made it into the Nativity. And one of these mums, I know my brain, I feel sorry for myself. So one of these parents came back a week after week. She's still coming to church every Sunday since that family service.
Yeah.
Now that's a big thing. So do your family services well. I did them badly before, nobody came. And now do them well, so people come. But it took a few years to suss out what was well for our community. That's a big key. Because you're not talking about people who know what church is. You're dealing with people who've never been in church. So you've got to shift the balance. You've got to make it accessible for the mums and dads. When our parents come in, we would stand and yap to them, we'd speak to them. I have parents that phone me up with their kids are kicking off. Only because you've built that relationship. So you need to build a relationship with the adults to get the adults to come into church, and then they bring their kids. But I wouldn't be kicking yourself if your kids' church isn't massive at this point in time. But I would be thinking about starting up a midweek group so that you can pull them in a bit. More questions?
Do you do this full time? Is this your job, or do you have another? Do you still teach and then do this in your spare time or whatever?
Yeah, I am employed full time. I should have said that at the beginning.
Because I'm just thinking,
She's off her head.
No, this is all great, but
I did
get the
this.
energy
So
and the time.
before I used to teach full time, and I still would have run the kids club on a Friday night, every Friday night, and I still did kids church on a Sunday. So that was my two things that I've always done. We now have, so on top of that now, I do assemblies in the prayer breakfast, and we have a boys and girls club and a variety of other things. But I'd have done the holiday club in my school holidays. And at the same time I was doing that, I was still down working with the drug addicts in the street on Saturday night. But not everybody's like that. You've got to do what works for you. And I think that is important. So, but I would have done the Friday and the Sunday, even when I was working full time. And that wasn't the only ministry I was involved in either. Do other things. Yes.
What does your process of encouraging adults to get involved in
Good question.
children's ministry look
Okay.
like?
Adults like a purpose, don't they? Men especially. Do not say the words, just come and help out and see how you get on, because that ain't going to happen. They'll come in, I don't know what I'm doing. So what I would do, you kind of give them a false sense of security, in a good way. So if somebody's off, we would invite them along, or we would say, I'm really short today, I haven't got anybody to stand at the door, I haven't got anybody to do registration, I need somebody to teach this story. So the first few times they come, they know exactly what they're coming for. And that way, they're not disclosing necessarily at that point because they're in with a group. I'd never leave them themselves. So they're always in just to see how they get on. And then people need a heart for what you're doing. They've got to be excited. So if there's passion in you, then there'll be passion in them if they see what they're doing. But I'd always give them a purpose, give them a job. Even all our leaders, if you come on a Friday night, they all have a job. Because people's time is precious. They're not going to give it up just to come. So whatever we're doing, I try and make sure that everybody is doing something. And that could be from standing at the toilets. We have a toilet lady on a Friday night. That's all she does. Stand at the toilet and make sure nobody escapes out the building. That's important. But so we've also got people that don't necessarily work with kids on the registers. So they are the people who don't maybe want to have that relationship with kids or find kids quite... but they're good at the paperwork, are good at registration. So my advice would be give people a job, so that they know what they're doing and they can find their feet. And then what happens, over time, they find themselves the jobs that need to be done as well. But that's how we've managed to recruit people and get them involved. And don't give them the horrible kids the first time. It's true. You can laugh, but it's true.
But there's even a stage before that where there's the kind of, we'd love to have more children in the church, but, you've either got one or two who are keen to come forward and help, but not sufficient. So it's that
really
chicken and egg
difficult
situation.
Yeah. What we do, you've got to think about longevity for your leaders as well. So I was saying to somebody else just today, I think it was yourself, that as time's gone on, I've been really aware of that. I might have hundreds of energy and I'm willing to give it every Sunday, but not everybody is. So we now shut Kids Club, we shut Kids Club in the summer holidays. If there's no school, there's no glow. Just the rule right across the board. And if the school's shut with snow, there's no Kids Club either. Also, we stop in the middle of June, and that'll be us through till September. So we don't start until September. So July and August is 2 months that all the kids leaders have off in church. There is no kids church, and I don't feel bad about it, because they work hard all year. And you need to be able to come into church and not think about kids ministry. I need to come into church and not think about kids ministry on a Sunday morning. Tomorrow's fine, it's in the middle of the term. Well, we're just starting off tomorrow. We've been off for 3 weeks. So the Easter holidays, the October holidays, the Christmas holidays, we have at least 3 weeks off. Because you need to think about longevity, you need to think about people. So if you don't have a lot of leaders, I'd be saying even the first Sunday of the month, so put everything into that. And then as the need goes on, if there's not enough people in kids' church to run it, shut it and put them back into church. It won't be long before they're complaining and they're lining up to volunteer. I've done that before. I ain't daft. It doesn't work without volunteers, but make it happen, whether it's once a month or twice a month or every week, but have that time off as well. I used to think you had to do it every week. It's just daft. Yes?
Have you got helpful pointers about how a ministry can complement the church, and you get the church leaders or the elders who are on board, and I guess
You need it.
how do you help
Yeah, that's
Is
been
that
a,
helpful?
right, that's been a journey for me. So I've nearly got my full status. Woo! Just finished, well, I'm very excited about that, nobody else is. So it's been a journey because I started off, as the person who started a kids club, it was very passionate, that sometimes was misunderstood. Because it was all about the kids. You can see that, can you? At 20, wasn't necessarily good. But then as time's gone on, I've worked a lot more with the leadership, so kept them up to date. The first time we had 200 kids in our kids group, I ran into the leaders meeting and said, come in, you need to see this, and took them in. And then just spent that bit of time with them. Now I'm very fortunate because I'm on the leadership, so I'm one of the pastors in the church. So it makes it easier now, because you're working with people. But you've got to keep communications open. Sometimes they say no, and now I've had to learn to go with that. And that was rubbing off the sharp edges of me, because I'm very determined, and if I want to do something, it can be a real but I've also had to learn that the kids ministry can't take over the church. So a balanced church is a good kids ministry, youth ministry, seniors fellowship. It has right across the board, the worship team. Kids ministry is not the most important thing in the church, it's one of many things. So I have a heart for the church. I serve in other areas of the church, which helps people to come and serve in my area of the church as well. So keep links open, don't make it the only thing that you're doing. Work with other people. When they ask you to get out of the building, grudgingly make them pay for somewhere better. That's what I do. I do. Kind of thing, but I've had to learn to work with them. Does that answer your question a bit? It's definitely been a process. If you'd seen it 15 years ago, it wasn't. We weren't running alongside each other, I would say that. But getting alongside the guys, working with them hearing my heart and me hearing theirs. And also working along with your church, you can't be working against. So if our church is doing a conference next week, so the kids are having a conference next week. So we kind of try and work alongside it. If we can do the same thing, we will do the same thing. We wouldn't work against them. And also working with the youth ministry as well. It's not a competition anymore, you just need to see that it's all working for the same thing. That makes sense? Yes?
It's one that will maybe slightly veer a little bit into youth ministry as well, but one of the things that I've found sometimes that it can be a tension is between sort of resources on groups where you've got sort of a small number of kids coming in and you're sort of developing that sort of fellowship time,
Yeah.
versus maybe sort of a more general sort of youth club type or kids club type ministry where you've got that sort of breadth,
Yeah.
but not necessarily
Depth.
quite the same time
Yeah.
and depth to relate, and trying to work out how to reconcile those two things
Okay.
in a way that's going to keep everyone invested,
Yeah.
on board, and encouraged with that sense of mission and purpose.
Okay.
Can
I
I
think
just say, sorry before you answer, Lisa, I'm aware of your time, so if you
Fine.
can answer quickly,
Yeah.
but we'll have to let Lisa go in just a moment.
yeah, I need to get there before the bride. You've got one slot in the week, is that right? One area at a time?
I'm thinking generally sort of two things.
Okay.
Two things. A little
So we
bit.
have different things now in place, but choice is always good. Choice in church is good. Yes, some people like a connect group. Some people like to go to a large midweek meeting in the middle of the week. Do you know where I'm at? So kids, we would do exactly the same. We have some things that's set up that's a little more relational, but the depth's not there, but the breadth's there, and we've other ones where they are getting down that bit deeper. If you've one slot, then I'll just split the time. So give them the choice with all the things that you have to offer, and then use various people and get into small groups and go for the depth at the same time. But for me, choice is always good, because we have kids that buy into a Thursday night which doesn't have the depth, but it's often their starting point, and then they come on a Friday night which is far more discipleship based. So they're getting that. But you need adults and volunteers to do that. But if you've got the one slot, make it happen in your slot. And some kids will love the first half an hour and they won't like the second, and for other kids it'll be vice versa. But that would work.
Do you have any like link for the games and filming?
My head.
You don't have anything like a link for like songs?
I can give you, if you take email addresses, I can email Sherry and give her all the links for that. Games, if you look in here, Kidology, lots of games. Max 7, lots of games. That one story in Crazy Church, look in there and you'll find the craziness that you're looking. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that was helpful.